Ha ha, I don't want to go out there and totally dance on anybody's grave, but wow. Is this narrative something that we did not expect in the slightest? Today what I wanted to do was just go over to a Reddit post, a pretty popular one at that, and talk about how Nashville Predators fans are feeling about the Vancouver Canucks. Because earlier, last night, after the Canucks beat the LA Kings with Quinn Hughes in his Steph Curry-like dominance, we saw ourselves this post made on the R Predators subreddit. Lank is playing out of his living mind. And included is a little screenshot of the ESPN profile. Kevin Lankinen, 32, he's the Canucks goaltender from Finland. He's got a 7-0-2 record, 208 goals against average, which is 4th in the league, and a 923 save percentage, which is 6th in the league. He also has 1 shutout and is tied for 4th in that category. I still deeply believe that the Predators should have given this man more starts so he would sign that $2 million deal. So freaking upset that he is gone. Now, let's dive into the Canucks and their goaltending situation first and foremost before we speak about the Nashville Predators, because I feel like for Kevin Lankinen, the fact that he had himself an opportunity to possibly get more money than what he is at right now, he's at $8.75 million a year with the Vancouver Canucks on a 1-year contract. The thing is, a lot of what Lankinen's decision process seemed to have been wasn't necessarily directly tied to dollars. Sure, if a team went out there and offered Kevin Lankinen a $4 million contract, he probably would have accepted that. But the fact that he was making $2 million a year with the Nashville Predators and came off a season where, in 24 games, he had a 908 save percentage and a 282 goals against, I think there was a lot of sentiment going around that said that Kevin Lankinen wasn't really going to get paid a tremendous amount. If he were to sign, he would probably sign in a backup capacity, right? And for Vancouver, they wanted to sign Lankinen earlier on in the offseason because of Thatcher Demko's uncertainty, and they didn't want to rely on just Shilovs and Jiri Patera. But Kevin Lankinen held out. He wanted a little bit more money until at the very end of the offseason, he was like, fine, okay, I'll sign. $875,000. The thing is here, I feel like Lankinen was more so attached to the opportunity than the strict dollar amount. Obviously, he doesn't want to be underpaid, but in a situation like Vancouver's, if Patrick Allvin very honestly says to the guy, look, we want to play you, we're going to play you, Artur Shilovs and you will be the 1A, 1B, and Thatcher Demko is going to take some while to recover. We don't know when he's going to be ready, so you are going to get playing time, Lankinen. In fact, you could potentially beat out Artur Shilovs for the main number 1 spot on the team. Do you think you can do it? And Lankinen said, sure. That seems to be the overall dynamic as to how things went down. Of course, maybe not word for word. I'm paraphrasing the thought process here. But Kevin Lankinen coming over to Vancouver was a lot less about the money and more about the opportunity. There was a starting spot open in this city. And with Thatcher Demko's uncertainty, it was going to be up to Shilovs, Patera, or Lankinen to force themselves into that spot. Unfortunately, Shilovs has been terrible this year. It seems like teams around the National Hockey League got the book on Shilovs from the playoff run that he had, and now it's become a lot more difficult for him to consistently make saves that he should be making. Kevin Lankinen, on the other hand, has been in the NHL for a while. He has had pretty good seasons in Nashville and then in Chicago, so to see him come over to Vancouver, start out in this way, provide such a stabilizing, calming presence in net, and be one of the best goaltenders statistically speaking, it's kind of mind-blowing, and I think once Thatcher Demko comes back and you have Demko Lankinen, this could legitimately be a Swayman-Allmark situation in terms of how good the quality of goaltending is. Now, I get it. Allmark won a Vezina. Swayman was in contention for a Vezina last year. Are Lankinen and Demko going to be in that sort of a discourse for 24-25 the entire season? Probably not, but there still is a lot of optimism in regards to how well these guys can play. So with this in mind, I wanted to go over to Nashville and talk about their situation, because right now UC Saros has a 904 save percentage in 11 games, 286 goals against, and his record is 3-7-1. The Preds also signed Scott Wedgwood in the offseason. He's got an 841 save percentage in 3 games played. Really not great. And when you think about it, look, A lot of Preds fans are going out there and talking about the departure of Kevin Lankinen and how he's been so much better than what the Preds have. But they're also talking about a few other things. Firstly, he's on a much better team. And I'm not going to disagree here, but there are some comments like the one underneath saying, you watched our series with the Canucks last year and thought that team was significantly better? I came away thinking that team is way overrated. So maybe some people will disagree. This is also a great illusion of how defense impacts goalie stats. Nothing about Kevin Lankinen's advanced stats really stand out, until you get to the stats that team defense impacts. Expected goals against is 4th lowest in the league. The 2nd lowest is Hines, Minnesota. It's why both those teams are PDO kings. Limit quality shots against and your goalie's save percentage will go through the roof. It's just like how the best years of Saros' career came with Hines as coach. Hines' system was boring, but it was really good protecting goalies and limiting shots against. And I think that's definitely a big part of it. The Vancouver Canucks, their defensive systems have been working in a decent capacity. They still have been letting some stinkers in, although I will say a lot of that has to do with Artur Shilov's. But at the same time, the Canucks D actually hasn't been their best this season in totality. Quinn Hughes and Hronek have been alright. Erik Brannstrom has been fine, but everybody else has kind of needed to step up a little bit, which is kind of ridiculous when you think about how the defensive results are already this positive. The PDO, the expected chances against, etc., seeing how Vancouver is one of the better teams in the league despite not being their best defensively, kind of opens the door as to what this team is truly capable of. And for the Preds fans over here to talk about it, it is interesting to see them acknowledge that they were also a part of that sort of system back when John Hines was the coach of the team. That's why Saros had great save percentages. Another comment says, hey, Lankinen's doing pretty well, yet everyone is obsessed with Yaroslav Askarov. Your point? He was the #1 goalie prospect in the league. Were we not supposed to be excited to see him play? And I think just kind of the idea here is like, oh yeah, they could have had Lankinen and Askarov, 2 guys that are hot and starting things out well. Instead, they re-signed UC Saros, whom I'm not going to say is the blame here. I'm not going to put any blame on him. He got the bag. He got as much money as he could have gotten, which is good. But directionally speaking, I guess, for Nashville, there were some question marks there. Another comment says, of course Lankinen is playing out of his darn mind now that he leaves us. I'm not a doom speaker, but nothing is going right this season. Fun fact, he was playing just as well with us. Our defense just sucks. Why did the Preds let this guy go? Why did we not re-sign him? Was he expensive? Makes 0 sense. Player decision. He wanted to start and he wasn't going to in Nashville. He actually took less than what we offered him to play in Vancouver as a starter. And honestly, he has earned starter status, so I don't blame him one bit. And then some other fans are talking about, yeah, it's understandable why he wanted to leave, and it's understandable why he chose Vancouver as his option here. It is kind of ridiculous when you think about some of the other teams in the NHL not having goaltending that is as good as Kevin Lankinen. Like, what, the Oilers couldn't have signed this guy? Like, you think about teams that are going to be good, you think about teams that might actually have goaltending as a weakness, and Kevin Lankinen is better than 90% of the NHL's goaltenders. So, what gives? Is it just strictly due to Vancouver defense that he is doing this well? I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and if you're a Predators fan, which I know some of y'all do exist, I do get some comments from Predators fans once in a while, what are your thoughts on Lankinen doing as well as he's been doing in Vancouver after leaving your team and rejecting a much higher dollar amount contract? Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. 9 and bye.